Hey everybody, we are back in Studio A here at the lovely Pantograph building, and it's myself, Joe Deacon, and Randy Kindred here. We're going to talk about the high school football season, obviously week 1 on the books and week 2 coming up this week. And Randy, you ready? First week, pretty good week. And,
Yeah, it was. Except for unless you're in the Corn Belt Conference, then it was a rough week.
Yeah,
Everybody lost.
the whole league.
Yeah.
That's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
And speaking of Corn Belt, we'll talk right off the bat about a Corn Belt contest here. It's the final Corn Belt meeting of the intercity rivalry between Central Catholic and U-High, as they're going to part their ways and go into separate conferences next year.
Yeah, it's going to be kind of sad, but it'll be exciting at the same time to see how this last game turns out. Obviously, who knows down the road that they could wind up in the same conference again someday. But for now, in the foreseeable future, this is it. And the circumstances are pretty interesting because they both really need a win.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, everybody in the Corn Belt lost. Central Catholic coming off a home loss to Tri-Valley as state champion, but smaller school. And U-High had to go up and play a Washington team. A couple of tough contests for both
Exactly,
teams.
Yeah. I mean, they both lost to really good teams, and I think they both had a lot of questions that needed to be answered in the first game, and may have come out with even more questions in some circumstances. But I think it'll be a good matchup for both of them. It's always a good game when they get together, but especially this year with a lot of new faces, it should be really interesting.
Yeah, I talked to both coaches just in the past couple of days, and I mean, they said they weren't lacking for motivation with this rivalry coming up. They did see some positives that they hope to build on, and it should be a good game over at Central Catholic at Hunman Memorial Field on Friday night. Also in the inner city now, the Big 12 rivalry of inner city teams. We've got Normal Community still number 5 in 7A, and going up against a Bloomington team that started off with a win.
Yeah, and kind of interesting with Bloomington with the new coach, Joe Walters, and I mean, he was at Peoria Notre Dame last year, so Normal Community's somewhat familiar with what he likes to do, but still with the different personnel of Bloomington, you don't know. I don't think they know exactly what he's got in store. I got the game film from last week, but that's about it. But I think both teams are coming off of games that they feel pretty good about, and Bloomington's at home. They really want to, I think, kind of establish themselves for this. This could set a tone for their whole season if they come out and play well tomorrow night.
Yeah, and obviously Normal Community with a big win in their opener. I mean, they've just looked to build on the program that they've built.
Yeah, that game was over. Sounded like it was over in the first quarter. Most of the regulars didn't even play a whole half, and but Wes Temples, I talked to him this week. He said he liked what he saw from the starters when they were in there, and then the good thing was he got to play pretty much everybody on the roster, so got everybody some experience. And but he knows this will be a different test this week. Instead of Urbana, you got Bloomington, a big rival, and he's particularly concerned about Bloomington's speed. You know, they have Dominique Cradell, who didn't play in the opener, but he's going to play this week, and then Kerry Lockhart filled in for him. He's a champion sprinter and really had a big game. So there's some speed to contend with there.
Indeed. The other intercity team is Normal West, and they head out to O'Fallon, coming off a shootout win.
Yeah.
It was or loss, I should say. That was quite a big game from Peoria's Gino Hess, and a high-scoring affair for Normal West.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say Normal West would right now say yes, we'll take 63 points again and take our chances.
Exactly.
But they lost that game because Peoria was just on fire, especially Hess. But O'Fallon is a team that was 5-5 last year. They lost their opener at Hazelwood Central, which is a pretty good program, I think, down in the St. Louis area. So it's kind of hard to know exactly what challenges they'll present, but I think West is going to be a tough team for any defense to really hold down, I think. So I look for them to have a big game on offense again.
Yeah, it was Peyton Millingham with a big game. I mean, it kind of got overshadowed by Gino Hess. But
yeah, he's probably the first guy in history that threw for almost 470 yards and 7 touchdowns, and nobody's talking about him, because Hess was just so unbelievable for Peoria.
What was that, second in the state in total rushing in one game?
Yeah.
Unreal. Moving on to the area teams now, obviously we kind of touched on Tri-Valley with the win over Central Catholic. There's obviously a big power in that. Now they get their first conference matchup with Eureka, the newcomer to the HOIC.
Yeah, that should be interesting to see. You know, Eureka's used to playing Corn Belt competition, and so they should be at least somewhat familiar with the kind of level of play that Tri-Valley is going to bring, but obviously last week Tri-Valley went into Central Catholic and played very well and won, so it'll be a big challenge for Eureka, but they're coming off a win, so they have a little momentum going into it too.
Yeah, it was Tri-Valley's defense that really kind of took Central Catholic out of that game, it sounds like.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a tough challenge for Eureka offense.
I think so.
Also in the large division of the HOIC, we've got El Paso Gridley. They're going to host Fieldcrest. That a couple of teams are coming in at 1-0. El Paso Gridley got a big game, and their offense seems to be running right now.
Yeah, I know you did the season preview on them, and it sounds like their offensive line is really good, and they ran the ball very, very well last week against Hayworth, and Fieldcrest is coming off a 65-0 win over Flanagan Cornell Woodland, which I know they're struggling with numbers at Flanagan this year. They got a lot of young players, so. Fieldcrest this is definitely a step up in competition for them. It'll be interesting to see how they respond because they have a lot of new faces as well.
Yeah, it was Tyler Russell who had that 119 yards for EPG in that big win. Moving on to the small division game, Leroy's the only team I think with a win so far, and they're going to host Tremont. Obviously, Tremont had their tough rivalry game with DMAC, who's a loaded team, so that's going to be a good game in the small division, I think.
Yeah, I'm thinking Tremont's probably glad they got DMAC out of the way on the first week, and they can kind of regroup from that because DMAC's awfully good. And Leroy sounded like it took them a little while to get going last week. They were behind Ridgeview 3-0, I think, early, but eventually got their ground game going, and which is what they've been known for a long, long time. And so I think that should be a really good game. I think pretty highly contested.
Yeah, definitely. I think it'll be a challenge for sure. We mentioned already that the Corn Belt started out, everybody lost their opening week, so it's like a clean slate in a way for everybody. No one lost ground. A couple other games in the league. The one game with two area teams is Olympia visiting Prairie Central, and then Pontiac goes to IVC, and Mahomet's hosting Limestone, so in the non-conference game there.
Yeah, I'm sure Olympia and Prairie Central, they would like to get off on a good note there against a Corn Belt opponent. Prairie Central's got the new coach in Kurt Brandenburg, although he's been part of the program for quite a while as an assistant. So that's probably going to be a pretty close game, I think, between those two.
Yeah, and then looking at a few of the area games, the notable game for me is obviously PBL is our ranked area team right now. They're coming off the big win over GCMS. It took, 2 days to complete or something like that?
Yeah, a little
but
weather problems.
They're heading to Westville, and Blue Ridge gets its program back this week as they're hosting Bunker Hill in one of their 4 contests.
Yeah, that'll be great to see them play as their own school again, and I know they're kind of excited about bringing it back. Obviously, it's on a limited basis this year, but hopefully the towns will get out and support them. And it's kind of a neat thing when you try to rebuild the program and to see how it goes.
Yeah, and that'll be all the fun Friday night, but won't be all the fun in football. Obviously, this is the first weekend of college football as well here in town as Illinois State kicks off with Valpo, and Illinois Wesleyan's hosting Monterrey Tech of Mexico. That's going to be interesting.
That's obviously a different thing. And it's first, I know Wesleyan's traveled overseas for off-season international games, but to have one here is awfully unique, and it'd be interesting to see what kind of level that they play at.
And obviously, with the Redbirds with 2 strong postseason runs the past 2 years, they're going to try and get this season kicked off well against Valpo.
Yeah.
So, all right, well, that'll do it. Enjoy your weekend of football, and we'll see you next week. Thanks.